Hello everybody, today I'm going to be talking about Tokyo Mirage Sessions on the Wii U. When the idea of a Shin Megami Tensei Fire Emblem crossover was first announced, fans of both series were drooling. Two amazing game franchises with a rich history finally coming together. It seemed like they could be an interesting yet complementary fit. Then it all went quiet. Almost too quiet. It was a long time before the title was mentioned again, with many thinking it had turned into vaporware. After all, the initial reveal only showed character art from each respective series. Clearly, the game was barely past the negotiation stage between Atlus and Nintendo, revealed far too early in order to mitigate worries about the Wii U's struggling fortunes. What was eventually revealed 2 years later was something nobody expected. It certainly wasn't the medieval turn-based strategy many people had imagined. Instead, we got something even more amazing. Tokyo Mirage Sessions was shown in spectacular style. Modern day anime, J-pop, over-the-top action, it was bewilderingly amazing. Both Shin Megami Tensei fans and Fire Emblem fans didn't know what to think of it, as they were mostly in shock, but there was one set of fans who immediately gave a surprising smile and a glint in their eyes. Persona. Yes, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is Persona, albeit in a super happy Nintendo style. The story is absolutely bonkers. I won't tread on too much detail as I would like everybody to experience it for themselves. It can be quite overwhelming to take in, so bear with me. 5 years ago, Tsubasa witnessed the mass disappearance at a concert, including her sister, who happens to be a J-pop idol. Fast forwarding to the present day, Tsubasa is herself attempting to break into the entertainment industry, but on the day of her audition, things once again go awry. She is kidnapped and taken into something that seems to be a highly warped parallel dimension, later to be known as an idolosphere. The main protagonist, Itsuki, who witnessed the kidnapping, recklessly pursues her into the unknown. After a rather close encounter with some shady-looking demons, Itsuki's power is awakened inside of him. His performer, energy or something, has granted him to cleanse the mirages, which are the demons. The first of which is Crom, who quickly lends his power to you. I'm exhausted just explaining that, and I'm sure most of you will have switched off by now. It's full of made up words and nonsense, but it is explained more gradually in the actual game and is more interesting than I make it sound. By the end of the exercise, you and your friends are now fully qualified Mirage Masters, each allied with a Mirage partner that grants them their strength as you prepare to deal with the increasingly frequent incidents involving Mirages entering into the real world. I thoroughly enjoyed the story, despite some flaws, especially with the convenience of some things. For example, very early on, after you rescue Tsubasa and both of you have gained your powers, your best friend shows up and is like, "Oh yeah, I have that power too." There are a few cheap explanations like this, but I was happy enough to accept it because the plot overall was intriguing and characterful. Being a turn-based JRPG, the battle system is something you'll want to know about, since it's where you'll spend the majority of your gameplay. You'll be pleased to know that it is excellent. Having 3 members in your party, you'll fight battles very similarly, yes, to you guessed it, Persona. You can choose to do a normal attack or use your special abilities, which are divided into magic and physical specials. Interestingly, this is where the Fire Emblem influence shows the most. Physical attacks use the Fire Emblem method with weapon type matchups, whereas the magic attacks use the standard Shin Megami Tensei matchups. It mixes both universes' systems seamlessly. What I also like about it is how simple or deep it can be. During standard battles, you'll blitz through them without even thinking about it. Almost like second nature, especially when you know what foe you're up against. Whereas in boss fights, the system really opens up and strategy becomes a must. It's an excellent balance. Something you'll encounter early on is the session mechanic. As your characters gain weapon levels, they'll acquire new abilities, some of which allow you to perform a combo with other characters, depending on which ability they use. As an example, if Itsuki has an ability called Wind Lunge, he'll perform a lunge attack after an ally uses a wind attack. Getting all 3 of your fighters into a single session is vital for winning battles. Without it, you won't make it very far in the game, as your opponents can punish you heavily, even normal grunts should the situation permit. Normal encounters can hit hard, and not only that, but they can perform sessions too, which caught me off guard more times than I care to admit. I absolutely love the battle arena in which you fight your enemies. You and your foes are on a stage, surrounded by a cheering crowd. There are large portraits on display of your character which shows their mood, If they are ready to set up session attacks, they will look over the moon. If they're about to cause chaos by using magic that could inadvertently heal your enemy, then they will look worried. The whole situation is completely bonkers, yet it suits the game down to the ground. Tokyo Mirage Sessions features your standard leveling up system for your stats. However, there are numerous other systems for your abilities. It's actually a little overwhelming at first, remembering what things do what, but you soon learn. Your bread and butter abilities will be gained from your weapons. You can forge new weapons with the help of another Mirage called Tiki, with a technique called Carnage Unity. With resources gained from defeating monsters, you can create more powerful weapons. The weapons themselves can be leveled up a handful of times, and each leveling grants you a new or upgraded ability, whether it be a magic attack, a session ability, or stat boost. Leveling up and switching to a new weapon is also vital for making progress in the game. Tiki can also perform a Radiant Unity, which grants each character new abilities separate from those granted by weapons. These ones are permanent, and don't take up any ability slots, and are usually of a passive nature, such as increasing your health. In order to complicate things a little more for you, in order to do these Radiant Unities, you need to level up a different kind of rank. By using a character in battle, they can gain a stage level, which allows them to not only do the Radiant Unity, but also to access side missions, which I'll cover very soon. It is a lot to take in, but it seems like a well-balanced system for improving your characters. All of these systems are connected like a web, where each one plays a vital role in development and your progress in the game. It's not even a chore to do. Most of these things come naturally when playing the game. It's only the player's job to keep up with them, such as remembering to switch weapons once the current one is mastered, and making sure you use your characters equally, and seeking out their side quests. A large part of your time will be spent exploring the dungeons of this game, known as idolospheres. Each dungeon is heavily stylized with simple but beautiful aesthetics, and while they're all just a little too dark on occasions, they are very distinct from each other. What I like the most is that they have light puzzle elements to them. Not enough to distract you or annoy you, but just enough to get you a little more involved. They're nowhere near as complicated as, say, the dungeons of a Zelda game, but that's fine by me. There are no random battles in Tokyo Mirage Sessions, something which I'm sure at least half of you will be cheering about. Instead, enemies will visibly spawn in front of you and chase after you. If you come into contact them, you'll enter the battle arena with them. You can avoid them if you want to, easily so. While running around the dungeon, you can press the X button to swing your sword, and if you hit an enemy, it will knock them away and subdue them. This gives you a huge advantage, as you can either ignore them or you can touch them from behind to give you a high chance of getting a preemptive strike in battle. I love this concept, and I think it's just about perfect as far as enemy encounters go. Like any RPG worth their salt, Tokyo Mirage Sessions has a healthy amount of side missions to do. They come in two flavours. The first is of lesser importance, whereby you'll come across NPCs, either in the overworld or the dungeons, who want to give you a task in exchange for a reward. Simple things such as defeating a certain amount of specific monsters, fetch quests, standard RPG tropes. The most important side quests are involving the supporting cast side story. Between chapters of the main story there are intermissions, at which point you can have a bit of downtime and indulge in your friends' personal lives, and also give them access to more abilities, which is a nice reward for your endeavours. One of the very few complaints I have with Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a combination of travelling and loading screens. Travelling around Tokyo is done via a map screen, and you can select which location you want to go to from the menu. You will be doing this constantly, travelling back and forth between locations, which results in you looking at the loading screen just a little too much. It's not a major issue by any means, but you definitely notice it after dozens of hours playing. The gamepad is used in a rather interesting way. Aside from an obvious map, it functions in the same way as a messaging application. As you're wandering around Tokyo and in the dungeons, you'll receive constant messages from your teammates, whether about the story, side stories, or just cheers of support. It makes the game world feel more alive and dynamic. Sadly, this means there is no off-TV play, but I think it's worth that sacrifice. With an RPG of this scale, on an obviously limited budget, it's graphically not the best. I think this can be best seen in the environments, which are small in scale and don't look that much better than Persona 4's. Aside from the scale, it's not something that I actually noticed while playing through it, it was only on reflection. But that shows that it didn't affect my experience at all, and I think its graphical flaws are well hidden by the bright and colourful art style. With a heavy focus on music and the whole entertainment industry, you'd better expect a half-decent soundtrack, and thankfully, it is as bonkers as the game's concept, with a definite funky vibe, once again nodding to the glorious Persona 4. The vocal tracks are highly prominent within the game, and are probably the highlight. They definitely won't be everybody's cup of tea, due to the cheesiness and full-on Japaneseness that oozes out of them. But for me, I adore it. One thing that impressed me significantly is just how damn stylish Tokyo Mirage Sessions is. The first step is with the aforementioned music, but also with its magnificent animated cutscenes and their retro feel, the way the gamepad is implemented, the overall artistic style, and although it may sound inconsequential, the HUD and the menus are just so damn cool. I feel cool just playing this game. I think the biggest complaint from most people will be the fact that it's not what they were expecting from a title tentatively named Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. While Persona may have done a bait and switch with Shin Megami Tensei, Fire Emblem's influence is surprisingly minimum, with only your allied Mirages being inspired by characters from the series rather than there being actual any connection. They could have been any old characters and it wouldn't have made a difference. The only major influence is in the weapon matchups, which in all honesty doesn't have that much of an effect on the game as a whole. Am I complaining? No, not at all. They've made an amazing game regardless of whether it's actually a crossover or not. Overall, Tokyo Mirage Sessions is an excellent game, a happy-go-lucky Persona type game that just oozes style and class. It possesses a fun, intriguing story with a cast of highly likeable characters in tow, and maintains the player's interest with a battle system that can be both simple and involved. It's a unique experience on the Wii U, and one that everybody should try. I adore it. Is it my favourite game on the Wii U? Possibly. Okay guys, if you've enjoyed this video then be sure to like and subscribe, that will help me out a lot. You can read the full review of Tokyo Mirage Sessions at whataboutthegame.com, and you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter if you want to. All the links are below. Thanks guys, bye bye.